What kind of husband gets served custody papers after being left by the roadside? That's the question, isn't it? The one that echoes in this too-quiet condo. But it didn't start with lawyers and sealed envelopes. It started with a laugh. It started with a joke. My name is Thea. I'm 32. And I thought it was harmless fun when my friends and I made him walk home. But the next time a courier knocked on my door, I realized Robert had been planning something much, much bigger. How did a silly prank and a few secret messages with my coworker turn into losing my home and my child? We thought it was funny. That's how it always started. My sister, Sadie, said Robert was too serious. Too predictable. Always worried about rules and routines. A compliance officer, for God's sake. His job was literally to make sure no one had any fun. So when we were driving back from the lake house that Sunday, I told my friend driving to stop the car. Just pull over, right here on this empty country road. What for? She asked. Sadie, in the back seat, already had her phone out. She knew. She always knew the kind of spark I needed. Let's let Robert out, I'd said, a grin spreading across my face. A little fresh air will do him good. Everyone laughed. The idea was absurd. Perfect. Robert looked at me, his expression unreadable as always. Thea, don't be ridiculous. We're miles from town. Exactly, I said, my voice bright. You needed the exercise. You said so yourself this morning. Maybe you'll learn to lighten up a little. The doors unlocked. He didn't move, so I gave him a little nudge, a playful shove. He got out, stood there on the gravel shoulder, his hands shoved into the pockets of his sensible khaki pants. He looked lost. A mannequin dropped in the middle of nowhere. The doors locked. We pulled away. In the rearview mirror, his figure got smaller and smaller. Sadie was filming from the back seat, cackling. Oh, this is priceless. Poor Robbie. He should run faster next time. I laughed along with them. It was harmless. Marriages needed humor, even cruel humor sometimes. It keeps things from getting stale. Robert was stale, like bread left out on the counter for a week. I was just shaking things up. By the time we got home, the video was already online. Sadie had captioned it. When your husband's internal GPS is set to boring. People shared it. They laughed. They left comments. My wife would be divorced if she did this. LOL. Poor guy. Run, Forrest, run. I told myself it was fine. They were on my side. They saw what I saw. A man who needed to be pushed out of his comfort zone. Robert came home hours later. His shirt was damp with sweat, clinging to his back. Dust coated his expensive shoes. He was silent. That was the worst part. The silence. I was ready for a fight. For him to yell. To tell me I was crazy. I wanted the drama. The passion. Instead, I got nothing. You're being dramatic, I said, leaning against the kitchen counter, scrolling through the comments on Sadie's post. A real man would have laughed at the prank. He just looked at me, then his eyes drifted to our daughter, Lily, who was asleep on the couch, her small chest rising and falling. Without another word, he went into our bedroom. I rolled my eyes. I texted Leo, my coworker. Evan has zero sense of fun. Walked for 3 hours and came back looking like I'd killed his dog. Leo sent back a string of laughing emojis. You're a star, Thea. Don't let him dim your shine. That made me feel chosen, alive, like someone finally saw me. My father, Cliff, heard the story and slapped his knee, roaring with laughter. Robert should be glad to have a wife who keeps him on his toes. My mother, Ruth, was more hesitant. Maybe you went a little too far, dear. I brushed her off. The only one who wasn't laughing was Marjorie, Robert's mother. She called the next morning. Her voice was calm, low. It made my skin crawl. Thea, she said, no preamble. Do you believe humiliating your husband in front of the entire world will make him love you more? I hung up, annoyed. I told Robert his mother was trying to poison him against me. He said nothing. He just picked up a small, black notebook from the counter and slipped it into his work bag. I told myself he was sulking again. Just sulking. And he would get over it. He always did. But Lily, our 6-year-old, looked at me with her wide, serious eyes. Robert's eyes. Mommy, why did we leave Daddy on the road? I kissed her forehead. It was just a game, sweetie. She didn't smile. Games are supposed to be fun, she said, then went back to her coloring book. The joke started on the road, but it didn't end there. It was just getting started. The clinic felt like my stage. my real life. At home, I felt like I was playing a part, the dutiful wife, the patient mother. But at the Crestview Dermatology Center, I was Thea, the witty, sharp receptionist who knew everything and everyone. And Leo made sure I knew it. "Mr. Sirius get over his marathon yet?" he'd ask, leaning against the polished marble of the reception desk. I'd sigh dramatically. "He's still sulking. You'd think I'd asked him to donate a kidney." Leo would laugh, a deep, warm sound that made me feel seen. "He's predictable," Leo said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "He looks like the type who cries over a broken routine, probably has a spreadsheet for how to fold his socks." I laughed, a little too loud. "You have no idea. It's true." And every laugh felt like proof. Proof that I was right, that I was the fun one, and Robert was the anchor weighing me down. "You have spirit, Thea," Leo told me one afternoon, his voice low. "You're too alive to be weighed down by someone like him." I just smiled and told myself it was true. The video Sadie posted hit 2,000 views overnight. Then 5. Then 10. She was ecstatic. "We should do a series," she said over the phone, breathless with excitement. "Husband pranks. People love the stiff husband clip." I grinned. "Maybe we should." I liked that strangers were on my side, that they saw Robert the way I did. Stiff. Lifeless. When I told him about the video's popularity, he just looked at me. That same blank expression. "Why do you think humiliating me in public is funny?" he asked. "Oh, relax. It's harmless. Do you want our daughter to see it one day?" I snapped. "He's overreacting. Children need to see their parents having fun." He didn't argue. He just picked up his coffee and left for work. His mother, Marjorie, called again. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened to it on speaker while Robert was in the room. Her voice was still calm, still steady. "Robert," she said, "respect cannot grow in soil that has been poisoned with ridicule. Remember that." I scoffed. "She's so dramatic. Poisoning you? See?" He didn't defend her. He just sat at the kitchen table, opening that small black notebook. He uncapped a pen, and he started writing. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice sharp. "Keeping track of things," he said, not looking up. "What things?" "Just things." He closed the notebook and put it back in his bag. I laughed. A cold, brittle sound. "You're pathetic. Like a schoolboy with a diary." He didn't reply. Why wouldn't he fight me? Why wouldn't he shout? I wanted a scene. I wanted proof that he cared enough to get angry. Instead, he just went to bed, quietly. It was Leo who understood. It started raining one afternoon as I was about to leave work. He offered me a ride. "I can't let my star receptionist get wet," he said with a wink. I accepted, even though I knew Robert would frown if he found out. It felt exciting. A small, harmless secret. When I got home, Robert was looking at his phone, at the feed from our doorbell camera. "Leo gave you a ride?" he asked. He was being nice. "It was pouring," I said, shrugging off my coat. "His car is on the camera feed a lot lately." "You're paranoid, Robert," I said, my voice rising. "Workers look out for each other. It's about safety." "It looks like secrecy." "You're trying to control me." He said nothing more. He just pulled out that damn notebook and wrote something down. That notebook. It unnerved me. He carried it everywhere now. Neat, black pen lines filling each page. It felt like he was building something. Slowly, deliberately, like a storm I couldn't see. But I could feel the pressure dropping in the air around me. And yet, I convinced myself I was still in control. People laughed at Robert, not me. Leo admired me. My father backed me. My sister made me famous online. Robert's silence meant nothing. Or so I thought. The pub was our Saturday night ritual. A loud, sticky place where I could feel important. Leo was there, of course. He always saved me a seat. "The star has arrived," he announced when I walked in, and a few of our friends clapped. I basked in it. Robert came later, holding Lily's hand. He ordered her a juice box and a glass of water for himself. Leo leaned over the table, his voice dripping with condescension. "Dare to order something stronger than water tonight, Robert?" Robert's eyes were steady. "I'm driving my daughter home." Leo laughed. Always an excuse. I laughed too, louder than I needed to. "He kills every vibe," I whispered to the person next to me, loud enough for Robert to hear. The jokes kept coming, all at Robert's expense. They teased him about the roadside walk, asked if he'd finished the marathon yet. I added my own jab. At least he didn't get lost. His brain probably walks in straight lines too. The table roared with laughter. Robert just sat there, calmly sipping his water, saying nothing. That calm, it infuriated me. It was like a wall, smooth and impenetrable. I wanted to see a crack. I wanted him to snap, to yell, to show he cared. I leaned over and whispered in his ear, my voice sharp. "You're making me look bad by not playing along." He looked at me then, his eyes cold. "I am not a clown, Thea." "No," I snapped back. "You're just boring." Across the table, Leo raised his glass to me. "You deserve better energy," he mouthed. I blushed and took a long sip of my wine. Sadie filmed parts of the night. Of course. She posted a clip of me laughing with Leo, with Robert sitting silently in the background, a dark shadow beside my light. The comments poured in. "She has so much spark. He looks like a ghost next to her." I told myself I was admired, that the attention proved my worth. When the bill came, Robert quietly paid for the entire table's food and drinks. It made everyone go quiet for a moment. Awkward. Embarrassed. After he left with Lily, people asked why he never fought back. "He's passive," I told them, swirling the last of my wine. "I have to create all the sparks, or our marriage would just die." Leo smirked. "Sparks come easily when two people are a match." I looked away, but I was smiling. When I got home, the house was quiet. Lily was asleep. Robert was in the kitchen. On the table sat a printed screenshot from Sadie's pub video. Across the bottom, in Robert's neat, block handwriting, was a single word. "Documented." I scoffed. "What are you doing? Building a court case against me for having fun?" He said nothing. He just tucked the paper into his notebook and closed it. I shouted then. The frustration I'd been feeling all night finally broke loose. "You're pathetic. Hiding behind your stupid little book. Why don't you say something?" He just looked at me. Calm. Steady. And then he walked upstairs. The next morning, Lily showed me a drawing. It was of me, smiling, surrounded by a group of laughing people. And over in the corner, a small, solitary figure. Evan. Holding her hand. "It's from the pub," she said quietly. "Daddy always looks alone." My chest tightened. "You're exaggerating, sweetie. Daddy's just shy." "I saw it with my own eyes," she insisted, then went back to her coloring. Later, my mother called. "Thea, do you realize how much humiliation can corrode a marriage? You always defend him." I shot back. "I defend dignity," she said softly. I hung up. That night, I confronted Robert again. "You're making me look like a villain by staying so quiet," I accused. For the first time in a long time, his voice had a sharp edge. "No, Thea, you're doing that all by yourself. You're twisting things." "No," he said, his voice dropping back to that unnerving calm. "I'm recording them." "Your stupid notebook doesn't prove anything." "Facts do," he said. I stormed off, slamming the bedroom door. Later that night, I couldn't resist. His notebook was on the nightstand. He was in the shower. My heart raced as I picked it up. It felt heavy. I flipped through the pages. Dates, times, quotes of things I'd said. Receipts from the pub, taped neatly to a page. Screenshots of Sadie's posts. Timestamps of Leo's late-night texts to me. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't a diary. It was a ledger. An indictment. I shoved it back on the nightstand just as the shower turned off. When he came into the room, he looked at the notebook, then at me. As if he knew, he slid the book back into his bag without a word. That silence again. Heavier now. Almost sharp. I told myself he was bluffing, just trying to scare me. But a small voice in my head whispered that he was building something. Something I couldn't stop. The clinic's holiday party was my moment, and I dressed for it. A red dress that clung in all the right places. Bright, sparkling earrings. Leo saw me the second I walked in. "You lit up the room," he murmured, his hand brushing my lower back. Robert should be proud. Robert. He came later, with Lily, only because I had insisted. He looked completely out of place in his plain gray suit, a storm cloud in a room full of champagne bubbles. Leo pulled me onto the dance floor. The lights spun. Everyone clapped. I laughed, louder than I felt, loving the attention. I ignored the sight of Robert standing on the sidelines, holding Lily's small hand. Later, we stepped outside for some air. It was cold. Leo draped his blazer over my shoulders. "It suits you," he said, his fingers lingering on my collarbone. I blushed, pretending it was harmless. Just a friendly gesture. When Robert came to get me, his face was a tight mask. Can we leave, Thea? I kept the blazer on. A small act of defiance. No, not yet. He took Lily home himself. I stayed. With Leo. Cameras flashed. Phones recorded. By midnight, photos were already circling in our workgroup chat. Me, in Leo's blazer, my head thrown back in laughter. Robert was nowhere in sight. When I finally stumbled home, the condo was dark except for the light over the kitchen table. Robert was sitting there. He gestured to his phone. The doorbell camera feed. You came home in Leo's car, he stated. It wasn't a question. He gave me a ride. It was safer. I slurred, tossing my purse onto the counter. Why are you wearing his blazer? It was cold. He tapped the screen. Paused the video. The image was damning. Me in the hallway, just outside our door. Leo was leaning close, his hands on my shoulders, adjusting the jacket. It looked intimate. The camera doesn't show everything, I said, my voice defensive. It shows enough, he replied. He set a printed copy of the still image on the table. Across the bottom, the familiar, neat handwriting. Documented. I snapped. You're paranoid. Nobody else cares about this. But people did care. The next morning, the group chat was buzzing. Sadie had, of course, posted the picture with the caption, "Power pair." My father commented, "My daughter always did attract winners." My mother left no comment. A few days later, an email landed in my inbox. Subject: confidential interview request. From Human Resources, regarding manager subordinate conduct policy. My stomach sank. I told myself it was routine. Nothing serious. When I told Robert about it, trying to sound casual, he just looked at me with those quiet eyes. Noted, he said, and wrote in his book. I wanted to scream. I called Leo in a panic that night. He laughed it off. Relax, he said. R never does anything to top sales staff. They need me. I've got your back. But for the first time, I heard a crack in his smooth voice. A sliver of uncertainty. That weekend, Robert tucked Lily into bed and then set another paper on the table in front of me. A ride-share receipt from the night of the party. My ride with Leo. It showed a 5-minute stop at the Grandview Boutique Hotel on the way to my condo. Why did you stop here? Robert asked, his voice completely flat. My mind went blank. The driver. He must have taken a wrong turn. The driver didn't walk you to the door wearing his jacket, Thea. He nodded slowly, picked up his pen, and wrote something in his notebook. He didn't need to show it to me this time. I knew what it said. Documented. I stared at his notebook on the counter. Part of me wanted to grab it, to rip out the pages, to burn it. But something about the calmness with which he guarded it, it stopped me. It felt heavier than paper. It felt like a weapon I couldn't touch. I poured a glass of wine and scrolled through Leo's texts again. He sent a heart emoji, then another message. HR can't touch us. I wanted to believe him, but the reflection in the dark kitchen window caught my eye. Me, clutching my wine glass, looking terrified. I told myself it was nothing. That Robert was bluffing. But deep down, I knew. The storm was no longer gathering. It was here. The storm finally broke on a quiet Tuesday morning. Not with shouting, not with thunder, but with a knock at the door. A courier stood there, holding a thick, heavy envelope with my name on it. I tore it open at the kitchen counter, half expecting another bill or some junk mail. Instead, stamped legal pages slid out across the granite. Petition for temporary separation. Motion for financial restraints. Proposed parenting plan. My hand shook as I read the lines. My vision blurred. Petitioner, Robert Miller, is to be granted primary custodianship of the minor child, Lily Miller, during school weeks. Respondent, Thea Miller, is to have alternating weekend visitation. All communication is to be conducted through the designated co-parenting app. I gasped. A raw, ragged sound. He's trying to steal her from me. Robert sat calmly at the table, sipping his coffee as if he were reading the morning paper. All communication will now go through the app, Thea, he said, his voice even. I will be picking Lily up from school today. Her overnight bag is packed. Ab. Then he folded his newspaper, placed his mug in the sink, and left for work. He didn't even look back. I screamed after him. You're a coward. Hiding behind lawyers. This is just because of a stupid prank. But he was already gone. My first call was to Leo. My voice was a frantic whisper. He's doing it. He's actually doing it. Relax, Leo said again, but his voice was strained. He's just bluffing, trying to scare you. But the envelope in my hands felt real. The case number stamped at the top was colder and harder than any reassurance he could offer. My next call was to Sadie. I sent her screenshots of the documents. Her reply came back a minute later. A single, horrified line of text. "Oh my God, Thea. They listed my videos as evidence." My stomach dropped. I hadn't even thought about her posts. Her silly, harmless posts. Of course. Of course he had collected them all. Later that day, a car pulled up. Not Robert's. His mother's. Marjorie came to the door. She wasn't angry or smug. She was just calm. She carried a folder of her own. Inside were neat, typed pages, routines, bedtime schedules, meal logs. "This is for Lily's stability," she said, her voice gentle. I rolled my eyes, trying to find my anger again. "You're interfering." "No," she said, her eyes meeting mine. "I'm protecting my granddaughter." Lily came running to her, hugging her tightly. She went without a fuss. The sight of them walking away together, hand in hand, left a hollow, aching void inside me. The next week, HR summoned me again. Ria, the head of HR, sat across from me. Her face was grim. Her desk was covered with a file of screenshots. My late-night texts with Leo, photos from the party, even an anonymous complaint from a coworker about inappropriate public displays. "Did you or did you not stop at the Grandview Hotel with Mr. Vance on the night of December 14th? She asked. I forced a laugh. "Of course not. We were just colleagues." She didn't laugh. She slid a copy of the rideshare receipt across the table. The one Robert had. My mouth went dry. At home that night, Robert set another page on the counter. A signed note from the after-school sitter. Lily returned home at 11:15 p.m. on Tuesday. A school night. It was the night I'd gone out for drinks with Leo to de-stress about the HR situation. Across the top of the note, Robert had written it. Documented. I shouted that he was weaponizing our daughter. He said quietly, "I'm protecting her." I wanted to rip the notebook from his hands, but I felt paralyzed. When I told my parents, my father was furious. At Robert, "He's vindictive," Cliff boomed over the phone. "No real man drags courts into family life over a few jokes." My mother stayed quiet, just the sound of her breathing on the line. I clung to my father's words. I repeated them to myself like armor. He's the one who's wrong. He's the vindictive one. But when I tried to call Sadie again, she didn't answer. That night, I sat alone in the condo. The legal papers were spread out before me. Orders, schedules, all binding, all real. I poured a glass of wine and stared at Leo's last text. HR can't touch us. It felt flimsy now, a joke without a punchline. My reflection in the dark window showed me clutching his blazer again, the ghost of that moment from the camera feed. For the first time, a cold, terrifying thought crept in. This wasn't a game I could win. This was a game I had already lost. The courthouse felt colder than I had imagined. Beige walls, buzzing fluorescent lights, every footstep echoing on the polished linoleum floors. I sat with my lawyer, clutching a thin folder filled with excuses and justifications. Robert stood on the other side with his attorney. He had a binder, a thick, black 3-ring binder that looked heavy enough to anchor a ship. He didn't look at me. Not once. The mediator asked us to state our goals. My lawyer spoke for me. I just stared at my hands. "My client believes this is an extreme overreaction to a series of harmless jokes," she said. "She feels her husband is trying to punish her and control her by taking their child away." Then it was Robert's turn. He didn't raise his voice. He spoke quietly, methodically. "My goal is stability for my daughter," he said. "School nights without late pickups. Consistent meals and bedtimes." He opened the binder. The sound of the rings snapping open was like a gunshot in the silent room. He handed over Marjorie's caregiver logs. Each page was filled with notes, dates, times, routines. He handed over signed statements from Lily's sitters about the 11 p.m. returns. He showed the doorbell camera stills, the pub clips, the viral roadside video, even screenshots of my late-night texts with Leo, which he must have gotten from our shared phone records. My stomach dropped with each page that turned. I tried to argue. "The camera lies, people twist jokes, Leo was just a mentor." The mediator held up a hand. Her face was impassive. "Miss Miller," she said calmly, "the evidence shows patterns, not isolated incidents." My lawyer shifted uncomfortably beside me. She whispered, "The documents are speaking louder than we are, Thea." As I felt cornered, trapped. The judge's temporary orders were swift and brutal. Custody was granted to Robert during school weeks, with exchanges to take place at Marjorie's house. Not mine. The financial restraints were approved. I couldn't touch our joint accounts beyond a small, court-approved living expense. The co-parenting app was declared the only permissible channel of communication. I gasped. "He's stripped me of all my power," Robert's lawyer responded. "He has provided structure for your daughter." The judge ordered both of us to take a co-parenting class, and I was assigned a mandatory workplace boundaries course. Alone. The final blow came from the clinic. HR finished its investigation. Rhea called me into her office. I was to be reassigned to the archives department in the basement, effective immediately, barred from all after-hours company events. Leo was demoted from his regional sales manager position and given a final written warning. Both of us had to attend ethics training. I wanted to argue, but her tone was final. There was nothing left to say. Back at the condo, a sealed bag was sitting on a chair. Inside was Leo's blazer. Attached was an inventory receipt from HR. Robert had returned it. Without a word. Holding it felt like holding the evidence of my own downfall. Lily came by that evening for an exchange. My first supervised weekend. She hugged me, then looked around the empty living room. "Is Daddy picking me up on Sunday?" she asked. "Yes, sweetie." She nodded, and clung to his hand when he arrived at the door. The co-parenting app on my phone chimed. A notification. The finalized schedule has been uploaded by the court. School nights with Robert. Alternating weekends with me. Holidays split down the middle. I stood in the doorway as dusk fell, my small overnight bag packed for the weekend I would now spend alone. The reflection from the doorbell camera glared back at me. A distorted image of a woman standing in an empty doorway. Frozen in the moment that had started it all. Robert walked away with Lily, their footsteps steady on the pavement, leaving me with the suffocating silence of the condo and the cold glow of the app screen, confirming everything I had lost. It was over, and I was alone. And for the life of me, standing there, I still couldn't understand how a simple joke could end up costing me everything.